Proper watering and good soil will help your flowers blossom, but once the bulbs bloom, how do you take care of them? So, joining us with tips is Master Gardener, the green thumb guru himself, Ed Sordiff. Ed, it's a pleasure to have you here.
Good to be here.
So we have some of the most typical, most common bulbs you'll find. What do we have here today?
We have hyacinth, we have tulips, and we have daffodils. These are a little further along than most people have in their yards, unless you have a southern exposure against a wall, then they will really come up. Most are just little nubs coming out of the ground right now. So in order to get your spring bulbs going, you probably really want to get out there as soon as the snow is gone and try to rake off the old leaves and the mulch that's around them. Let the sun warm the soil and let them get going quicker.
Because there's annuals and perennials. Perennials are going to be the ones that come back year after year.
Yes. Well, actually, there's some of the hyacinths are both. Some of the tulips are both. The daffodils are mostly always perennial. That will come back religiously every year for you with really relatively no problems. So
right now a lot of people are going to head out to their gardens and they're going to find dead leaves and debris. So you clear everything off? Yeah,
I would gently clear it off, especially while they are small and short little nubs of the ground. You don't want to break the tops. They're pretty substantial and you won't have a problem. But you do want to rake it off, let the sun get to them. All these bulbs, people see them in the spring and they say, oh, I want to run out and get them. But you actually have to plant all of these in the fall. Spring bulbs are always planted in the fall.
Really?
Yep, and so that's what all these were planted in the ground in the fall. As soon as the garden centers have the bulbs, you want to go out there and you want to plant them because what they're going to do once they look relatively dead, the bulbs, but what you do is you put them in the ground, and even though they're not going to come above the surface, they're going to start sending out their roots, and they're going to get ready for the spring.
I get you.
So that's why you want to do it a little bit earlier, but I've actually had some sale bulbs and planted them all the way up to the beginning of December. As long as I could get into the ground, I even broke off an inch of permafrost on the top, and I was able to get, well, it's not permafrost, but the frosted topsoil, and was able to get the bulbs, and they did fine.
Interesting. Now you can also probably grow these inside, because a lot of these, all of these are in containers today. So could you grow something like this indoors?
You can force them, and usually you will put them in a, you'll plant them, you'll put them in a cold environment to give them a little bit of a winter, because they all want a little bit of a winter, and then you can actually bring them forward, and then they'll start sprouting a little bit earlier, and then you'll have them.
So going forward, once they're in the ground, what's maintenance like? How do you feed these plants?
Okay, well, these guys, a great thing for bulbs is actually like a bone meal. That's a simple organic. It's actually ground up bones, and it actually really feeds them really good, and it will not burn them. When you're planting them in the fall, put a tablespoon of this in the soil with them at the bottom, and mix it in, and then plant the bulb. When they come up this spring, you can sprinkle a little bit of bone meal on right when they're coming up, and you can also sprinkle it on the soil after they're starting to go down, when the leaves are starting to die down a bit. That's an important thing, the leaves. A lot of people, when they are done blooming, they just want to cut the leaves back, get rid of them, go on to the summer flowers. You really shouldn't do that, because it's the leaves that are putting all the energy into the plant for next year. So what you want to do is leave the leaves on the bulbs and let them die back in brown, and then you can actually take them off. At least 6 weeks you want to leave them there, because they're going to really beef up your bulbs for next year, and then you'll have bigger, better plants every year.
And what about watering? What do you need to know about watering these?
They like to be consistently moist. They want good drainage in a porous soil. They don't want to be like in a swampy situation, because that wouldn't work for them.
And lastly, you have some books here. What do these mean, and what kind of literature helps people to make better informed decisions about these plants?
I would go out and buy a regular bulb book, like these two. You can get any one you want. This is a Time Life series. This is an Ortho book series. Just go thumbing through, and they give you a lot of good details about like why your hyacinths, if you planted these Hyacinth orientalis, why next year they would actually be smaller each time. It's because these bulbs actually split, and then they get smaller, where these do not.
So pick up a good book. I've been going to the library recently for a lot of my books. So
that's an excellent source, yeah.
Because, over time, I mean, these things never change. It's not like computer manuals. These things are pretty much tried and true chips all along.
I think I actually got this whole Time Life series when I was 15 years old, and it's all still.
It all still works. Yep. And it's a pleasure having you here. Thanks so much for stopping by. And if you want these tips again, just go to mymassappeal.com a little bit later today.